Democracy has awoken in the Middle East, but was what seems like a spontaneous revolution actually a strategically planned event, cultivated by professional consultants?
The events in North Africa are orchestrated down to the finest details.
These revolution consultants are the worst nightmare of every regime. Right from the start, the revolution consultants follow a specific strategy, a strategy developed by the Serbian organization Otpor. This organization mobilized millions of people to bring about the downfall of Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. Their strategy became a blueprint, proving successful once again when used in the revolution in Egypt. Opposition movements from all over the world come here, to the Serbian capital Belgrade, to be educated in the art of overthrowing a dictatorship. The Serbs have used their experience 12 years ago to form a revolution training school, the Center of Strategy for Non-Violent Resistance, or for short, CANVAS. Chief instructor Serdar Popovic is one of the few CANVAS members who would show his face publicly in front of the camera. It was here in his office that the Egyptian revolution was planned.
The part of our work now is focused back to Middle East because of the few reasons. First of all, the struggle is not over. And we're already talking about 8 or 9 different countries. In some of these countries, which I of course wouldn't mention, we have very good groups which we are communicating with. We don't want to endanger these groups, so we wouldn't speak about this openly. In some of these countries, we are just observing situation and preparing analytics. It is very interesting what will come out.
How many countries you were working with that after this?
We worked with 37 countries after the Serbian Revolution. We had a successful 5 revolutions now before Middle East. And this is Georgia, Ukraine, Lebanon, Maldives, and now Egypt and Tunisia. And the list will grow longer. And then at the end, we don't have an idea in how many countries the clenched fist of Otpor was used. It's probably 12 countries right now.
After Milosevic's downfall, Otpor became an international phenomenon. The symbol of the fist reappears all over the world as the signature of the revolution makers. It re-emerged in Kamara, Georgia, followed by Oborona in Russia, then in Venezuela and Iran, and most recently it was used by the opposition groups in Egypt. The American author and Princeton University lecturer William Engdahl has written for over 30 years about Washington's secret geopolitics. He has established a widespread information network that extends deep into America's Secret Service. He is convinced Otpor is not acting alone.
The key actors in Otpor went on to create CANVAS, as you mentioned, and operate in some 50 countries. They are simply following an agenda given them by people in Washington for regime change. They're using this deniability that they're simply idealistic young people from Serbia who did it successfully and are so happy about it they want to show the rest of the world. That's hardly a plausible explanation in my view. I think they're getting well financed by American intelligence services for doing this. And the target countries they target, like Egypt and most recently, and so are precisely the countries that are on the Pentagon agenda for destabilization and regime change.
America is pursuing a forward strategy of freedom in the greater Middle East.
To diversify their economies, open their political systems.
We must stand with democratic leaders and moderate reformers across the broader Middle East.
The United Kingdom is ready to work with governments and civil society in the Middle East in support of greater economic development and more open political systems.
From Damascus to Tehran, that freedom can be the future of every nation.
Amin Ghali has been an activist from the start. He shows us the photographs of a meeting in Morocco. This was the beginning of a long hoped-for change in Tunisian history.
We had a trainer from Belgrade, yes, actually from the city of Belgrade, who came and trained the participants on these strategies, focusing mainly on the Serbian experience.
In a way, we have done the same that they did in Belgrade in the 90s. Non-violent resistance, the ridicule of the regime. There was no violence on the street. Even when the police intervened, we did not fight. The people from Otpor gave us a book in which they described all their strategies, how you have to proceed when you want to overthrow a regime. That book, which is used by opposition movements worldwide, was actually written in Boston, USA. From Dictatorship to Democracy is considered the Bible of the non-violent resistance. Gene Sharp taught for many years at Harvard University. His work describes various strategies from hunger strike to the unmasking of intelligence officials. His assistant, Jamila Rakip, is responsible for distributing Sharp's work. From Dictatorship to Democracy has been translated into 34 languages.
This booklet is the Arabic version of From Dictatorship to Democracy, which is one of Gene Sharp's most important and widespread publications. It's been disseminated very, very widely, this Arabic version. So a few years ago, maybe perhaps 2 years ago, an individual had it printed by a publishing house in Beirut.
Sharp's Guide to Revolution is feared by dictators around the world. Venezuela's President Chavez called Sharp a rabble-rouser in the service of the CIA. In Russia, the possession of the book is considered a hostile act against the government.
The manuscript for that was in a printer in Moscow. And the FSB, the successor to the KGB, arrived. And he said, "What is this?" And he looked at it. He said, "This is a bomb." Stopped the presses immediately. The presses were stopped. The people who took the translation were away with them. They went to a printer outside of Moscow, got it printed, and brought the copies back in. They went on sale in 2 bookstores in Moscow. That within 2 or 3 weeks, mysteriously caught on fire.
Now, with the internet, anybody has access to Sharp's revolution strategies.
What Mr. Sharp one time called nonviolence as a method of warfare. And they are going in every place since the end of the Cold War to destabilize regimes which offer resistance to this larger agenda, the globalization agenda as Washington defines it.
So are all of these revolutions actually initiated by the Americans? We can look back at what happened during the Orange Revolution in the Ukraine for evidence. The events that took place in Kiev in 2005 appear to endorse this assumption. Traditionally, Ukraine was part of Russia, but by the end of 2004, the tide had turned. The United States pumped millions of dollars into the opposition movements in favor of regime change. We are meeting with the 2 former leaders of the Ukraine Revolution. Just by being a member of the opposition movement Pora, they received significant sums of money, together with training in civil disobedience. Finally, they were given the book. Oh yes, the book by Gene Sharp. We all used it, and it connected us with everybody, with Otpor in Serbia, the opposition movement in Belarus, and Kamara in Georgia. Oranges in Ukraine, the Rose Revolution in Georgia, the Tulip Revolution in Kyrgyzstan, the Denim Revolution in Belarus. All different symbols, but with the same concept and the same sponsor, the United States of America.
In my case, in 2004, I was heading a water education campaign with a budget of $1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah,
yes.
But not because American taxpayers wanted to protest Yanukovych, but because Yanukovych tried to steal the vote.
Back in Belgrade, Otpor trainer Ivan Marvic proudly presents his new gadget for resistance training. It's a computer game that simulates the fight against the power of state. Ivan is sure that the game will make his training much more effective. Sponsorship for the development of the game came from American organizations.
The game downloaded off the internet or smuggled on a CD can reach people that we personally cannot. And so that obstacle is removed. Another thing is the question of scale. You know, personally, I can meet maybe up to 150 people a year if I work full-time. The game can actually reach much bigger number of people. The tactics that, you know, mass protests, occupying buildings, blocking the whole city, you know. But you're trying to kind of galvanize, you know, like rock concerts to come, and then you use that opportunity to recruit, etc., etc.
Marovich argues that the new generation doesn't want to read books. They would prefer to play video games, and it's far more effective. Despite the internet, the revolution trainers spend most of their time traveling to countries in need of a well-organized resistance. Just in the past year, Serda Popovich has flown over 100,000 miles. His inside knowledge and experience is his capital.
One of the tricks is making everybody busy. Okay. Because when people are busy, they don't have time to be afraid. Sounds crazy, but this is exactly what they do in the military training. Okay. So the way you're doing it, nonviolent struggle, is actually you create this group identity. You want people to feel each other. You want people to be dressed in a similar clothes. You want people to sing because songs make them work together. You want to have drums there who will give the rhythm to your march. You want whistles, you want music, you want fun. This is a very important part. And now it looks like a big, you know, how do you call it, love parade.
The Iranian government produced this propaganda video. This video is apparently unmasking a US conspiracy group. Part of this secret gathering is Gene Sharp, author of the guidebook From Dictatorship to Democracy. The video shows Iran is acutely aware of just how much of a threat Gene Sharp and his strategies are to their rule. Venezuela's President Hugo Chavez also voices his concerns. Mr. Cameraman, come close. Hear the symbol from Serbia, and hear the same in Venezuela in 2007.
It's an open secret that the US and Europe helped finance Otpor's fight against Milosevic. Its successor organization, Canvas, has no trouble finding takers for its services.
It's like a company would always say, no, we are driven by idea, but it's a very good business now. It's a business for them. You know, they run Otpor Enterprise, and Otpor Enterprise, you know, is going around selling their services.
The first thing is unity. A civil resistance movement must unify the widest possible spectrum of society, young, old, all ethnic groups, all religious groups.
And I thank the General Assembly for allowing me to talk. I offer my support by being here tonight. And let me ask you, what's going on here?